in first and second place go to me after the race, like, dude, which I knew was a signal for something. That was awesome. How old are you? I'm like, I'm 46. They're like, wow, you're older than our dads. I was like, thank you. I'm like, if I combine your two ages together.
Welcome to A.U.M, Ask Us Marketing. I'm your host, Callie Fedesinko. I'm the founder of Savvy Advisor Marketing, a digital marketing agency developed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience, using data to create websites, content, and ads. We build relationships first and grow numbers second. Please learn more about me and Savvy Advisor Marketing using this QR code or click on the link in our show notes if you're joining via podcast. Our episode today is brought to you by the Financial Planning Association. You probably know them as the FPA. FPA, great resource center. They provide education, support, and networking opportunities for financial advisors. So if you're not already watching this on one of their channels, please scan one of these QR codes, learn more about them, and get plugged into a chapter near you. Now, before we jump in, this is all an illusion. I'm not really here. This is actually a recorded intro. I know. Before you're like, hey, you said this is a live stream. It is still a live stream. I'm out on maternity leave, so I'm probably sleeping or holding a little baby. And my very good friend, Laura Garfield from Decanter is here to step in as the guest. And guess what? She and the guest will be live, meaning you can still ask your questions in the comments. They will still be answered live. So who will you be hearing the voice of today besides Laura? You'll be hearing Ari Baum, founder of Endurance Wealth Partners. Ari recently shared his journey training for and running marathons with his audience, and the response was incredible. You might remember him from an earlier A.U.M. His story resonated far beyond financial topics and sparked meaningful conversations with his community. So today, Laura and Ari are going to explore that balance between professionalism and relatability, and why sometimes the moments that have nothing to do with finances can create the strongest connections with clients and prospects. So with that, I'm handing it over to my very dear friend, Laura Garfield.
Yay, Callie, thank you so much. And I am here live with Ari and listening to Callie's intro. Ari, does it just take you back to those moments when you were home with your very first baby?
It does. It's a little PTSD. It was definitely a blessing. And my God, it's been a minute. So yeah, memory lane. Thank God for Google Photos, right?
My oldest, my firstborn, is getting ready to head off to college next week for his freshman year. And so it has been, I can easily do the math on that. It was 18 years ago that I was going through those sleepless nights. And that first one, I don't think he slept through the night solid for like 5 years.
No.
So
No.
I hope Allie's getting more sleep than I did.
I hope so too. Although I will say this, I don't think Callie will ever know the struggle of having to go to Babies R Us on the weekend and having to fill up that shopping cart with diapers and wipes and Pampers and all that versus the luxury of Amazon Prime and just having it show up at your doorstep.
Yeah, that drop up on the doorstep is just a game changer. But there are still plenty of struggles ahead of her.
Don't scare her because she's going to have to have more kids after this.
Just because the diapers arrived doesn't mean anyone's changing the diapers for you.
Very true. So yeah, we wish her the best and hopefully she gets some good night's sleep and it goes by quick. So enjoy every moment.
Fast. And she clearly had a amazing plan by inviting you to be my guest today, because you are the perfect person to talk about getting personal, not because you like open up with TMI, but because you are real and relatable by bringing in kind of a unique part of your life into your business.
Mhm.
And I mean, it starts with the name of your company, Endurance.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Why is Endurance so perfect for you?
So endurance pays tribute to a change in my life that started almost 15 years ago when I went from being an overweight financial advisor to taking control of my wealth. You know, we're always telling people how to save for the future and invest and be disciplined and all these other wonderful things. But along the journey and through some conversations with clients, I realized what's the point of having money if you're not healthy enough to enjoy it? So that led me down the path that went a little extreme, I will admit, to marathons, triathlons, and even Ironman competitions. So endurance was born out of that, and it ties so perfectly with the investment cycle and the planning cycle because you can have ups and downs, and you got to roll with it.
I mean, talk about a guy who doesn't go halfway. It's not that you're just going to start jogging around the block or getting a mile under your belt. Like you're going for Ironmans. And I wanted to scroll through the homepage of your website because it is really inspirational. And there are a lot of videos on this website that give you a chance.
You guys help me create.
Indeed, Idea Decanter played a part in this, but you guys are opening up and sharing stories and talking about what makes you special, what makes you unique. And this truly sets you apart from other advisors. Can you give me an example of one of your Ironman stories that you feel like has really resonated?
There's a lot. There's a lot. You know, there's something to be learned from every race. And I think I learned more from the races that don't go according to plan than the races that do go according to plan. You know, so just recently, this is a little bit of an embarrassing story, but I'll share it. So I was going down to Maryland to do an Ironman in Cambridge, and we were going down with a group of friends. So we were maybe 5 or 6 guys all going to race together. You know, we train together, we race together, and it builds a little bit of a community, which is very nice. And we needed to check in on race morning with our bikes. And I was coordinating with the race director's team on how to check in race morning versus dropping it off the day before. And emails back and forth for months, logistics, you know, almost like a financial plan. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. And then come race day, I show up. I'm making sure that everyone else is getting checked in. And then I'm the last one to check in. And then all of a sudden they're like, Ari, where's your QR code? And I said, oh, let me go to my email. I check my email. It's not there. I said, can you do me a favor and check it for me? And they're like, Ari, did you forget to sign up for the race? And I was like, what? They're like, we don't see you in the system. And I said, impossible. We're talking for months. How could I have forgotten to sign up for this race that I've been doing, you know, every year for the last couple of years? And then we all start laughing. My laugh was a little bit more nervous than their laugh because the race was sold out, and I'm thinking, maybe I forgot to sign up for the race. What am I going to do? I drove 300 miles. I have all my gear, did the training, and forgot to sign up. So they said, all right, don't worry, we'll take care of you. We'll let you sign up now and get the race going. I said, thank God. I raced through setting up my bike, my transition. You have to set up your sneakers in a section, your bike in a section, your helmet, and put on, your goggles and your swim cap and all that, and not forget the timing chip. I was doing that so fast. I was running to the swim start because I was going to be late. Usually when you start the race, the heart rate goes up because you're standing still, and then you jump into the water and you're flying. When I got to the water, I was like, oh, thank God, I could relax. I hope no one ever has an experience like this, but it's such a parallel to investing in the market. You know, everyone's waiting for the perfect moment. When is, my favorite stock down 30%, or when is the market down, or when I have the money to invest. But guess what happens? We plan, God laughs. You invest on Monday, the market goes down Tuesday for some event that no one could have foreseen, whether it's a war in the Middle East, a virus changing the world we live in. You can't control everything that goes on. But you have to roll in with a positive attitude and a smile and know that this too shall pass and stay in it. And I just see that every time I do a race, and it just carries over to the market.
That's a message any financial advisor can relate with. Like, have a plan, stick with it through thick or thin, right? Make adjustments along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But when you couch that story with your own personal experience at that starting line where you weren't signed up for the race, and then you bring in the moral of the story, the lesson,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that hits differently?
For sure. Because when we talk about the market, a lot of times we get caught up in like the jargon or the science behind it, or the nerd talk, as I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is people's eyes glaze over. They don't really fully understand. It's almost like you're in school, right? When your science teacher or your math teacher's talking, you're like, yeah, I understand, but you have no clue what's going on. When I talk about the races, first, it's usually at my expense that something happens, so someone could laugh at it and it makes it relatable. But the takeaways are always the same. It's struggle, face it, overcome it, and be happy that you did. I think in the market, what happens at times is people have a bad experience. They bought a stock and it went down, or they bought a bond and it went down, or it didn't go the way that they thought it was. And then sometimes they say, you know what, I'm done. I'm out. I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about races and events, thank God I'm still here, right? I've had races where, they warned us about sharks in the water, alligators, storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, like anything and everything you could think of. We go biblical in my races that I've seen all these things happen, and thank God, knock on wood, I'm still here, right? Investing, a lot of times people invest, they don't have a great experience, or an investment doesn't meet their expectation, and then they just walk away and they miss out on the future, benefits of it. I'm thinking of Callie right now with her baby, right? You've been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if you said, "Oh, the baby's crying, take it back"? No, it doesn't work. But it's the same thing when it comes to investing, and people have to have that understanding and expectation that it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. And these stories that I share with them show them how I overcome struggles. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
If anyone who's listening has a question for Ari, like one of my favorite people on the planet, Derek Pollard, please drop it into the chat. But in the meantime, Ari, I have a question for you. Let's rewind to, I think it might have been 2019, 2020, maybe, when we first started talking to you about getting personal in video. Do you remember what was going on in your head? Were there any second guesses? Were there any quiet voices that were like, Ari, are people going to care about these stories?
Yeah, I think there was a few things that ran through my mind. As much as I joke around and I say I look like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, I don't act like them. I don't talk like them. I don't look like them, right? We're not like
it's because you're younger than they are.
Thank you. Now, this is why we work together so well. Thank you. And remember, now that you said it on live, it's going to live on the internet forever. So what I would say is there was two things that kind of came up. one thing is, oh, just like when I signed up for my first race, this is going to be bad, right? I'm not going to be good. That was the first thing. The second thing is, who cares about what Ari Baum has to say? Like, what impact can I have? And more importantly, how am I going to be different? Am I going to talk better than the analyst on CNBC or Bloomberg about the markets? Am I going to offer some insight on a stock that no one ever had before? No. What can I do? I can share something that's unique to me that might be relatable to other people. So I started talking about my sport, which is the swimming, the biking, the running, and my family, because no one out there, much to my my luck, there's only one Ari Baum out there. There's no two Ari Baums out there. So the thing is that when I talk about my personal experiences, they're unique to me. No one could copy them. No one could trademark them. No one could patent them. So I'll give you one example, non-race related. We once did a video, I don't know if you remember this or not, about when I took my daughter driving for the first time.
I will never forget that video.
Yes. And for those of you who have not seen that video, you can go to my YouTube channel and see it there or on our website. But what happened was my daughter wanted to drive for the first time. Daddy, take me driving. And like every good dad, yes, honey, I'll take you driving. And I'm sure many out there can relate to this. Where do you go? An empty parking lot to practice. We go there. She gets in the driver's seat, adjusts the mirrors, the seatbelt is on, the steering wheel, the seat, everything is in perfect condition.
And this is in Brooklyn, right? Like we're talking Brooklyn. Yeah. Level of learning to drive in the country, in the suburbs.
This is not that. there are cars around you and aggressive taxi and Uber drivers around you. So she turns to me with her big doughy eyes and she goes, Daddy, okay, I'm ready. Now, which is the gas and which is the brake? And my heart dropped. I'm like, what? She's like, how do I make the car move forward? I'm like, you don't know which one is which? She goes, no. I said, maybe we should go watch some YouTube videos. Maybe we should do something before we actually start moving this 5,000-pound vehicle like through traffic with people. But, I use that analogy to remind people financial planning and investing is the same thing. It's scary at first. Are you going to make money? Are you going to lose money? Is this plan towards retirement going to actually work? There's a lot of unknowns. And people might be afraid to take that first step because of that unknown. Mm-hmm. But much like I survived that day with my daughter and other days and other driving experiences with my kids, which I'm sure anyone out there that's watching this knows the fear and panic and terror of getting in a car with a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old to drive, we get through it. And it's the same thing with this investing. And I can promise you, investing is not as scary as getting into the car with my daughter the first time that she drove the car. It's still scary, but you get where I'm going with this. So I can share that story and people can relate to that and then they can relate to me.
Mm-hmm. And that relation point is really where trust is born. And I think it's easy to overlook the fact that by sharing something that is an experience that I can relate to, it makes me feel like I trust you more. And getting to a shortcut to trust, any way to have a prospect trust you more, is really valuable because you're in a trust business.
100%.
When it comes to the value to endurance of you spending time sharing personal stories, building trust with prospects, reinforcing trust with your clients, like how do you quantify that? Do you feel like it's made a difference to the growth of Endurance Wealth Partners?
Absolutely. I think that first, it makes you more human. Sometimes clients or prospects look at financial advisors as robots, right? We're analyzing numbers all day long and you can kind of lose that human touch along the way, especially if you're talking, technicals, PE ratios or earnings or Monte Carlo simulations, part of the technical aspects of what we do, people don't want a robot. They want a human being that actually understands them, that may have walked in their shoes, to be on them with that journey, to say, hey, I'm here with you every step of the way, good days and bad days. And when they see that, you may be a family man or a woman, you may have kids, you may not have kids, you may be into a sport, whether it's tennis, golf, or even knitting. You never know what could be relatable to someone, to show that you are a human being, because people want that human connection at the end of the day.
And for you, your audience, while you started recording videos for clients and then realized it was also a good way at the same time to reach prospects, you were actually reaching advisors too, including this one guy named Jonathan. Tell us about Jonathan.
Okay. So Jonathan was actually my intern going back almost 20 years when we were together at UBS. And, we had a great working relationship. He was in school, he was studying for his licenses, he knew he wanted the business. And, you never really fully appreciate the impact you have on someone, until later on. And I was very happy to share with him. I loved that he was hungry for the business, and I was an open book. And then, continued on with college, continued in the business. And then we reconnected, I would say, maybe like 14, 15 years later. And he said, Ari, I love what you're doing. I see you on this journey. I see, you're still in the business, growing your book and being successful. And I see your videos. I see you're into triathlons and marathons and your kids and all that. He goes, I absolutely love that. I want a little bit more of that piece. Little did he realize what that actually meant, but he wanted some of that. And we came together, and he shared this with me. We've been working together for about 3 years now. And little did he know that on our website, on his bio, I gave him a nice little surprise on it, where he found out that he was going to run a half marathon. He turns to me. He's like,
wait, he found out he was going to run.
He found out. Yeah, he didn't read it in the fine print of our working agreements together. There, he's going to be doing a half marathon. He goes, wait, I'm doing what? I said, yeah, you're going to be training and you're going to do a half marathon. And he's been on a journey. He's lost about 75 pounds. He just did a High Rocks competition in New York. He's doing another event. He did a 5K. He has family workout day with his kids, his in-laws, his parents, and it changed his life. It absolutely changed his life. And he's healthier, he's happier, his kids love it, his wife loves it, and he's living his best life. And I'm just so excited that I get just to witness this transformation that he's going through, because it's just such a life-changing experience. Forget about money you can make in this business. This is, the new him, and he's loving every minute of it.
Well, I think there's two really cool things to this story, and I have his page pulled up with the before and after, what 2 years of discipline actually changed in his life. And I can't believe it's been 2 years that he's been with you. Time really flies, but it's not just that he laced up his shoes and hit the road. Like, you inspired a huge life change for him, but you also led the way for him for how to share that with the world. And I watch his videos and think, from having a Zoom call with him and getting to know him just a little bit, to watching a series of 2-minute videos where it feels like I'm inside his head. I'm watching him become like a metamorphosis, right? Like
Yeah,
becoming this butterfly.
Yes, I would say people love that. You know, first, they love that we all suck in the beginning of these videos. You know, we're not polished. Where they could tell we're reading off of a prompter, and we don't have that flow or that confidence, and they could see the nervousness. And I said, I love those videos because they're so authentic. You know, it's you being exposed out there. And what happens over time is you get better at the videos. I will never win a Grammy or an Oscar for my performances, but it's real and it's me. And people see that. And in a day of, I'll call it social influencers that are taking over, that are trying to curate this perfect life on social media, you know what? Everyone knows it's not real. I'll call it AI, but when we talk about the ups and the downs and the struggles, and when you literally see the transformation, if you look at a picture of Jonathan, we have to do a new biopic from him. But if you look at his biopic and his pics now, you see that transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And his clients and prospects out there see that journey. They feel like they're on it with him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're rooting for him. And we love that.
He has become an inspiration. He's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an amazing, amazing journey. What I think is also interesting when it comes to getting personal, and I will give you that you are not Brad Pitt. Like, let's just put it out there.
Exactly, a little bit. Definitely not.
But you have ripped a page from Hollywood in sort of the idea of a story arc. And when it comes to getting personal, I like to think about, you said it's the struggle and then you lead into the story. That I forgot to sign up for the race, but I still got to do it. The planning actually did pay off. But in that kind of Hollywood story arc, it's the struggle, it's the letting people relate to that and then getting them there. Or sometimes we talk about the then, now, how framework. So this is how it was then, this is the transformation I've made, and this is how I did it. Because you got to get people to listen, right? It's noisy out there.
Yeah, it is. What I found is, for most financial advisors, you have a natural audience in your clients. They are going to listen.
Yep.
What I found with video is that it helps amplify your voice. Thank God I'm not working from home, where if I had to say that story about that race 20 times to 20 clients, I'm sure my wife and kids would Dad, enough already. So video gives you that power to share that. And then I can get on a phone with a client and we can laugh about it. And I think video helps to amplify that. And I think that's important. The second part of video, it just reminding me of something I've learned on the endurance journey is, how does one grow? In order to grow, you have to have some kind of resistance. And after you overcome that resistance, you kind of look back and you're like, hey, I handled this well or I didn't. Which reminds me of another funny race that I had once. So I won't forget. This was Ironman Atlantic City 70.3. So not too far away from home, not a crazy drive, weekend down in Atlantic City with the family. My father-in-law loves those trips because he could park by the casino and, I could go do my race. And as quickly as I try to finish them in, it's always too fast. And he tells me, go do another one. But I remember in that race, I worked very hard in training. Did all my workouts, early mornings, eating right, doing everything that I could possibly do. And I remember I had a great swim. I got on the bike and I felt great. I was flying along the Atlantic City Expressway, having an awesome time. I was smiling and I was going fast. And then all of a sudden, I was maybe like halfway through the bike. It was a 56-mile bike and I was like at mile 23. And all of a sudden I hear a tss. The air goes out of my tire. And I think to myself, okay, all right, These things happen. You prepare to have tools in my bike to change a flat tire. I get off the bike. I said, I'm going to change it quick and be on my merry way. Only problem was when I looked at my tire, I had a big gash in it. So I knew changing the tube wouldn't fix it, but I said, I'll try it anyway. I pump it up. I ride 5 feet, flat again. That was a inflection moment for me. I could have done one of two things. I could have been really pissed and upset and saying, I did the work and now this race is not going to plan. And I even changed my tire twice and it still didn't go. And I could have been, grumpy as can be. And mind you, people are flying by on the bike, right? And I'm watching everybody else go while I'm just sitting there. And for a nanosecond, I'm like, how do I want to respond to this? I said, you know what? Nothing I could do. I can't control the piece of glass on the floor. I can't control the hole in my tire. I can't control the fact that I can't, I changed and it's still flat. I decided to clap and cheer for every single person that went by as it was going on. Some people said, hey, you need help, this, that. I said, I'm fine. And mind you, I'm in the middle of the Atlantic City Expressway. There was nowhere to walk, right? You couldn't walk. There's no off ramp. There's nothing around you. And maybe about 30 minutes later, there was like a, what they call a SAG vehicle, like a support vehicle, a guy on a motorcycle going around, and he stops and he's like, hey, you need a hand? I said, yeah, I got a flat. He goes, makes a joke, you don't know how to change a flat tire? I'm like, well, so far I'm 0 for 2. I said, I think it's my actual wheel itself, the tire, not the inner tube. So I'm like, by chance, you have an extra one? Pulls out a box, starts rummaging through. He goes, I got a tire. I said, all right. He changed my tire. At this point, I knew my hopes of a personal record is out the window. But I said, you know what? I'm just grateful to be out there. And I still had a great bike and a great run. No PRs that day. But not allowing something that I couldn't control bring down my attitude was probably a bigger win than a personal record. And when I shared that story with clients on a day that the market's down, 500 points, they're like, it's not the end of the world. It's only money. No one's taking your wife, your kids, your business. Life goes on. So those relatable stories is what endears not only clients, but prospects, because they get to know you before they even talk to you. So that's why I like to share them.
Well, Ari, I am incredibly grateful for you being here with me today and sharing your stories, and grateful to Callie for giving us the opportunity to fill in for her while she spends some valuable time with baby Fedosinko. Ari, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. And I want to thank Callie for having a baby just so we could have this interaction. Next time she could just ask. Doesn't have to have a baby for this.
Exactly. And thank you to everyone out there in the audience. Please make sure you tune in to Callie's A.U.M. next week and have a great rest of your week.